Welcome friends, thank you for joining me today. I do appreciate it a lot. Subscribers, thank you. Patreon patrons, thank you. If you're neither of those, please consider it. There's a link below where you can learn more. Well, let's see, today we're in the kitchen. That's because I posted on Instagram a picture, and I'll show that to you right here. And some of you DM'd me and said, well, what about us, Guy? How about showing us how to make some of that bread? So I thought, okay, I'll take you into the kitchen and I'll show you how to make bread. Let's just go right to it, shall we? Now, I strongly recommend, instead of measuring by volume, you're gonna measure by weight. So I've got my trusty scale here, and I'm gonna show you how to do that in just a moment. But not only will you need that, but you're gonna need some lukewarm water, some sourdough starter. Now, I made this starter myself, and if you want more information on how to make your own starter, leave me a comment down below. I'll show you how to do that in a future video, all right? And then a blender of some sort, or a mixer. A whisk and a bowl will do well, but I like using my KitchenAid. No, KitchenAid didn't pay me to say that, but that's what we happen to have here at the house. You're gonna need a little bit of salt, and you're gonna need some King Arthur flour. Now, I use King Arthur flour, that particular brand, specifically bread flour, because it does a very excellent job, in my opinion, of bringing out the flavors that I want for bread and the proper rise and all of that. But you can use all-purpose flour, that can work as well, or any other bread flour would be fine. King Arthur didn't pay me to say that. Alrighty, so let's just get all this stuff in the bowl and mix it up. The first thing you're going to want to do is take your mixing bowl, put it on top of your scale, turn on the scale so that it reads 0. So you want to zero it out with the bowl already in place so that you know exactly how much you're putting in. Now we're going to take the starter here, and we need 227 grams, so make sure it's in grams, of starter. And basically I'll just give it a little stir, and oh my gosh, take a look at that. That stuff is pretty doggone stinky. It's lovely. Okay. Yeah, stir it up. It's all nice and bubbly, and we're going to need 227 grams. So I just start dumping it in there until we get all the way to 227. Okay, got 223. I'm just going to drop just a little more in there. Whoop. Okay, I got 229. That's okay. What we do is we add 2 extra ounces of everything else. Oops, 3 extra ounces. All right, so we've got 230 grams in here. So we'll just make sure that we add the same amount of water, flour, and salt, and that way we'll have equal distribution of each of the components. Look at how bubbly that stuff is. Like I said, if you want to learn how to make your own sourdough starter, leave me a comment down below. I'll share a video with you. So I'm doing the same thing. I've got this other container, and I'm going to zero out my scale, make sure that it's registering, and then I'm going to take and put in 397 grams of lukewarm water. Make sure it's lukewarm and not out of the refrigerator or out of the tap, and not boiling water. But the reason why I'm doing it this way is I can't take water back. So if I screw up and I add too much, I can always pour water back into this main container. 397, that's where we're going. Almost. Okay, so 397, 398, 399, 400 is what I want. I got 404. I don't want to make it too wet, so I'll pour some back, just like that. So 397, 398, 399, 400. Oh, almost. And the reason why I do it this way, folks, is consistency. Each time I make a loaf of bread, I want it consistent. Once I found this formula, there you go, 400. Once I found the formula, I want to recreate it the same way each time, and weight is the best way, in my opinion, and in many bakers' opinions, to figuring out how much of each of the ingredients you want, so that from cook time to cook time, each time you're making bread, it comes out consistently. Okay, so we got 400. I'm going to set this aside for just a moment. I'm going to turn off my scale. Just like that. I'm going to put the bowl that has the starter still in it, and look how bubbly that looks. Can you guys see that? That's quite lovely. Quite lovely. All right, I'll turn this back on. There you go. It's zeroed out. Now I'm going to take my flour, Make sure it's bread flour, because that's, in my opinion, very important. All-purpose flour may not give you consistent results. Okay, and now for bread flour, I need 602 grams. So we just start dumping it in there. And the reason why I'm going straight in this time is it's a dry ingredient and it's not really mixing with the other stuff quite yet. So if I go a little over, I could always, you know, take some out here and it's not contaminated. Water though, once you get that water in there, you're done. There we go, we're at 270. Just keep piling it in. It's gonna seem like a lot, but you know what? It is. It's amazing, folks. 3 ingredients properly put together, that's water, flour, and salt, you get bread. It's a very cool thing. $602. When I get there, then I'm going to have to add 3 more, so really I'm going $605. Ooh, there you go. Oh, I'm at $593. I don't know if you can see that. There you go, $625. That's way too much. $614. Now I got to go down. So 602, 345. There's 602, 3, 4. We're at 605. So I'm going to take my pre-measured water. I'm just going to pour it right in, just like that. I'm going to set this aside. Then I'm going to get a little measuring cup. Okay, and I'll do this with my measuring spoon, measuring cup. It's zeroed out. It's working. I'm going to take salt, and I need 18 grams of salt. And again, I'm going to add a little bit. Oh, there you go. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I should have gone to 21 grams, but I'm going to stop at 20 because I don't want to add too much salt. It doesn't take quite as much salt to activate the chemistry, and it doesn't need to be that accurate. Plus, I always like to bring it down just a notch. I like to keep the salt intake down to a minimum. Okay, let's pour it in the bowl. Just like that. Alrighty, some folks like to use a bread hook, much like this. Personally, I use the paddle attachment like this because it does a little better job, I think, of blending everything together. Alrighty, let's put this thing in here. Now, all you really need is roughly 30 seconds to a minute. You don't have to blend it much or mix it up much. Let's get that in there, put that back. And I do love my KitchenAid. So we'll put that down in there. We'll lock it down, plug it in, of course. First, start it very slow so it doesn't go everywhere. And then as you start to hear it give a little bit of resistance like that, go into medium mode and beat the heck out of it. Alrighty, so 30 to 60 seconds, that's about all you need, but when you start getting a lump of dough that looks kind of like that, you know you're done. And then I just take a rubber spatula and take that stuff off. It comes off pretty easily. You can get in there with your fingers if you like. Okay, and then I'll take this off, like that. Take it all off of there. And then the next thing we're going to do is let this thing kind of sit. I'm going to roll this over a little bit with my spatula. I'll show you that in a second. Pretty much all comes off. Have patience. Okay, we'll put this in the sink. Let's get this out of the way. And I'm going to just give it a little bit of a beating. And basically what I'm doing is I'm scraping the sides, I'm turning it, I'm going to scrape the bottom just a bit, and again, turn it. Turn it, lay it down a little bit just like that so I can do a better job of turning it. Get that bottom all nicely scraped up, just like like that. Do the same thing here. See how I'm kind of going at it? This is how I've discovered to make sure it's all blended really well. Makes a nice doughy ball, kind of like making Play-Doh when you were a kid. Remember how to do that?
Kids love to squish it and squash it and make all kinds of things.
This is basically the same thing, except later on we get to eat it. Now the sourdough starter that we put in there is our active yeast. We do not need to add yeast to this. Instead of yeast, we've made our own, and we add a little bit of thyme. So after this is done, I'm going to cover this with cellophane, and we're going to let it sit for 1 hour so that that active yeast that's in there will begin to be nourished by the flour and everything that we just put in there, flour and water. Oh, by the way, try not to use chlorinated water. I know most of you will probably take water out of the tap. Don't, because that chlorination will actually kill the active yeast that you've worked so hard. And again, leave me a comment and then I'll send you a link to the how to make your own starter. But chlorinated water can actually start to kill that active yeast, and we don't want to do that. So use either extremely filtered water like reverse osmosis water, or distilled water works okay. Or as long as you know that your water is not, so purified water is good, or as long as it doesn't have chlorine in it or fluoride or, yeah, there's so much stuff. But the purer you can keep your water, the better your dough will be. All right, so I'm going to cover this up with cellophane, and we're going to let it sit for 1 hour. Alrighty, it's been an hour. Let's take off our wrap, and we're just going to fold the dough on itself. Oh, 4, 5, 6 times. Just do a nice good mix, and see how the dough kind of looks there? Just a ball that all kind of sticks together. I like using my spatula. Keeps things nice and even. There you go. One more time. Take all of that. There you go. To me, it's therapeutic. There you go. That's all you need to do. All right. Cover it up again. And let it sit there for another hour. Siri, set the timer for 1 hour.
Your timer is set for 1 hour.
And before I go on, I'm supposed to do this. Can you see that? That's a bell. You're supposed to ring a bell. So, ring the bell. Alrighty, another hour has gone by. Let's mix this yet another time. Just fold it on itself. It's risen just a little bit each time you do this. And the reason why we're waiting 1 hour between each time is we're using natural yeast that's happening inside the sourdough starter, and the growth of that yeast as it uses the flour and water as food for itself. So it grows a bit more slowly than activated yeast that you would get in a package. But the rewards and benefits are far better. So make sure you plan ahead, okay? We've done this, what is this? The third mix total. We're gonna do one more mix after this. There's an hour between each of those last mixes. And then you've got an 8-hour wait for the dough to rest in the refrigerator. So yes, make sure you are planning ahead. But I promise you, the rewards are terrific. Alrighty, so let's cover this back up. Just like that. The reason why we cover it up, the main reason is you don't want stuff fallen inside your dough. And one other thing too, make sure you're just in a 75 or so degree environment. You don't want it to be too hot because it could actually kill the yeast. You don't want it to be too cold because then it won't be active enough. So somewhere between 70 and 80 degrees would be okay, and my house stays at around 75 degrees, so that's just about right. And that's what I would recommend for you. All right, let's pull out our timer. Start my timer for 1 hour.
Okay.
Hey friends, we just connected with Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Why would you want to shop at those other two places? You know where we're talking about. When you can shop in the convenience of your own home, online at Sportsman's Warehouse. Anything from shoes, clothing, fishing, boating, archery, hunting, firearms, camping, and grilling. They call it outdoor cooking. Just use our link down below. It doesn't cost you a penny more, and you'll be helping out the TSG channel when you shop at the Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Okay, so this is our last mix before we put it into rest. So I'm going to take this out. I've got a separate bowl right here. Before I do that, I'll do a quick mix up here, folding over onto itself. And get that all turned around. And keep in mind, each time I come back, it's risen just a little bit. It's satisfying to see. Doesn't raise a whole lot, but it is fluffier and I don't know, easy to form each time. Boy, I can tell you, it's getting good. Okay, so let's put this in here. Let's transfer the contents. And the reason why I transfer the contents is just so that I can not have my mixing bowl in the refrigerator overnight, just in case I wanted to bake something else or prepare something else. I've got a mixing bowl here. And I might do this too if for the previous mixes, if I was planning on using it, but just for the sake of ease, I do that like this with the mixing bowl. All right. Take all that, put that there. Let's cover this. Take it over to the fridge. Alrighty, and there it goes. And you can keep this in the refrigerator for up to 48 hours and it'll do just fine. Tomorrow morning I'll end up taking this out and we'll show you what the next step is. Hang in there. Good night. See you tomorrow. Use our Amazon link down below. When you do, it helps us out and it doesn't cost you a penny more. And after using the link, save it to your bookmarks so you can have easy access to it in the future. Thank you.
And the new brighter colors make Play-Doh even more fun.